Hey guys, Dudley, g'day. Didn't advertise this one real well, so a bit slack. Hey Stuart, hey Mark. Gosh, it's a bit quiet here and apologise for that. What's happening? Tea and biscuits, g'day. Remind me to give tea and biscuits a shout out in the next little while. Machine's Egg, g'day. Creasy's Workshop, hello, I hope you're doing all right with the rain. Peter Noddle, g'day. Rustanox, hello. David Sykes, hello. Good morning. Stephen's Watchmaking, goodness gracious. G'day, Stephen. So some good videos from Rustanox recently. Fly cutter and a little vise, nice little vise. That looks like a good project. Haven't seen Bill. He's probably asleep. So you should check out Rustanox if you haven't actually subscribed to him. I know you all have. So why am I saying that? However, someone you haven't, 92mm, you're just getting there. It's just setting in. Tea and Biscuits. You haven't all seen Tea and Biscuits channel because he's only got 25 subscribers or something. So you should go and check him out. It's just starting a traction engine build, so that'll be him done for the count. Someone else in someone else's lifetime will finish that off, but it'll be nice. Thanks, Peter. Fridge is here. Craig went to bed. Anyway, Tea and Biscuits, you should go and check out his channel. Couple of videos up. Looks like there'll be some more. He has promised more, but that doesn't always amount to anything. Should check out Dan Shed too, because and also Stuart Hingston. They're both promised more, and it never ever happens. So we'll give them a stir. Kimber's Alec though has got regular videos. Is a really good channel. Rustanox has got regular videos, and John Creasy's got enough videos to keep everyone interested. Kevin from Machine NZ has too. He's got a new video, I think, on casting this week. Yeah, I don't know how to make weekly videos too. I should make a bit more of an effort. But, you know, you've got to get motivated on stuff. Engineer Bruns, you probably should check him out too at the moment. He's in basically in Kiev at the moment, so things are a bit sort of average there. So keep an eye on him. Dan's on the phone. In the next room. So that's it. What's with the doodling? Yeah, good question. This is what I've been messing around with, guys. Good morning. Let's have a look at this. I don't know if there's much to really show you, but I've been messing with this. There's some projects that are going on at the moment. This is the thread cutting attachment. It's upside down here on the bench at the moment. This end here is where the end the gears go on. So gears go on this end like that. There's a spacer goes on the back here at this stage. That was Stefan's idea, and that's probably as good as anything. That just holds everything in place and stops it moving in this bush. There's oil way through the bush here. Is the oil port here on the outside on the top. So I've got this universal drive, right? And I bored this out, and I'm making basically a round collar with a knurl on it, big enough to put, probably not this one. I don't know whether I'm going to use this one. Stephen Lang sent these from the amazing hardware store in the sky that no one in Australia can deal with. All been there. But this is a baldy tent, and I was just going to put a pin in here and make a collar that clicks on over the pin so it doesn't turn. It only can go on in one spot. And opposite, I was going to put a groove around here, and I was just going to put a baldy tent in here to click into the groove when it slides on. So basically, it stopped it falling off. And so that you can just pull it off at each end, just unclip it, and it's a way to go. So that's what I've been messing with. I've got a piece in the lathe to make this, and I'm not really sure I'm 100% there with it. I think compared to this baldy tent's a 6mm one, and compared to this one, which is only about half as long and about 2/3, I think this is a 4mm by about 10mm. And I might just get a couple of those rather than mess around and use this 6mm one. And then I can have this collar sort of match on this end as well as that end. So that's my thoughts there. Don't know. But that's what I've been doing sort of yesterday and a bit of Monday. So that's the update on that. I really want to sort of get on and get this half finished. There's a bit of work in it still. This is all pulled down at the moment, but there's a guard to go on it, and there's some finish work. This is the banjo, so it needs a knob on here, and I'm probably just going to buy a proper fiberglass plastic, positional adjustable handle for that, so that it's only got to click it quarter of a turn, and then you can clearly adjust it so that it's the right quarter of a turn. Doesn't get in the way of the guard. Whether I hang the guard off this banjo, or whether I make something that pivots on the same diameter, or whether I set this up and machine a groove in it so that the piece sits inside it in the back, or what, I don't know yet. I'm still getting there. I've still got no idea about that. So that's what I've been messing with over the weekend. There's a little bit of workshop progress, but not a whole lot really. Probably thinking that this rain settles down and the water goes down, literally goes down another 10 foot or so people can get through the roads. There was a gentleman who was going to come and buy the watch cleaner machine, so that would set me up pretty well for projects and get some things done around here, but hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. At this point, we might work something out and then just wait for bits for it. A spare thought for down there. I think they've got some water around. Don't know. Saw pictures of Lismore, which is just down the street. Yeah, it's looks like it's particularly damp down in North Rivers, New South Wales. So, anyone else down there? They've had a bit of rain and they might get some more. We're supposed to have a couple more days rain, but we've had a lot. It's wet, seriously wet. And Sydney looks like it's going to be next. The dam on the Hawkesbury River bursts. They're going to probably be looking for somewhere to live, most of Sydney. The news tonight didn't sound very confident about that, so I'm suspicious that newsreaders or SES or government officials just say, well, just stand by in case the dam bursts. It's really not a very comforting thing if you happen to live on the river there, so, or back towards the city. So, don't know, not to put any doubts in anyone's mind, but that sounds a bit scared. Matty should be right. He's right on the water, or right on the sea. So, going to ignore Stuart's comment about that. Dan's comment about that on Facebook's got me into enough trouble today. So, I don't know. We've had some serious rain here, and I think we're going to get a bit more serious rain before the end of the weekend. And I'm high and dry here, and it's not really a problem for me. However, it's hurting a bit because the guy who's going to come through and give me $500 or $600 in cash didn't turn up, so I'm sort of not happy about that, but nothing you can do. and I guess it's not anywhere near as badly off as some people. There's definitely roads here, but I don't know how good. And everything's drying out here on the Gold, or on this end of the Gold Coast, but it's looking like the river's not dropping as quick as it usually does anywhere. The ground's just so flooded that there's nowhere for the water to go, and we're going to get a bit more. So hold your hats. Someone's got a drone. Maybe you could drop some food into Dan, because I'm not sure how close they are to actually having food or not having food. So things are probably a bit dire. Sorry, I'm messing around with the screen here. Dan's got power again, so that's nice. John was saying he's had 97 millimetres out of that 200 they're supposed to get today, so it's going to keep raining. Hopefully everything's still okay in the morning. But certainly there's some flood and there's some water around. Been messing with these. I don't know. We're not really just. At least we're not in Ukraine. Yeah. Speaking of Ukraine, Engineer Bruns is in the Ukraine. Go and check out his channel. Things are looking a bit sort of dire over there. Also, a bit of a look, probably not everyone's cup of tea, but Bald and Bankrupt, which is a pretty good travel logger channel from a gent about my age or a bit older, English gent who travels across most of Eastern Europe. Some pretty good videos from him about the getting out of Ukraine and what the feeling's like on the ground and that sort of thing. So they're worth a look too if you've got nothing else to do. Found they were pretty interesting. Got pretty few of these. This is just a prototype. It's not a bad job, but it's just a prototype. It probably needs this finished at about 11 o'clock last night, and I couldn't be bothered coming down and cleaning it up properly because it's not quite exactly how I want it. But this is a stopper for the end of a swing arm on a Harley, as you can see by the badge. Just goes in the end of the tube. This white hasn't got enough layers and it's a bit transparent, so you're not really getting the contrast I'd like there. So, and there's also some issues with this O-ring grove and support for that. So we've sort of fixed that on the next one, which is printing as we speak, and we'll do a colour change and we'll get a white background that's nice and opaque and clean on that. But that's a job that I'm looking at and doing a few of, and there's a custom Harley guy who wants a few with his, like his logo on them, so sell as merchandising. So maybe there's a bit of income there, which would be really nice from 3D printer. So that's something I've been messing with. There's another one printing as we speak, just so we can sort of have a prototype done. Yeah, Rustnox, John had some updates from him. I meant to go and have a look where from. John might be able to give us a bit more of a heads up. Don't know if it's time to ditch it. They were a different country back then, and to be honest, I've got a stack of Russian-made tools too, and they're not too shabby, and they've got a story. Probably we don't sort of think too much about the story of some of them, but it's probably not entirely a happy story. I've got some Russian tools too, some of which I've never used. Hey, Raymond. So these are 16mm couplings, so 16 SN32 narrow gauge. Couplings I've been messing with, sort of trying to prototype up. This one's pretty tidy, still a bit big, I think. This one's quite a bit too big. For heavier industrial stock, probably this one's really nice, but it wants to be a bit smaller again, so I'm gonna shrink it a bit more before I print another one. But apart from that, they look pretty good and they're nice and solid. Had thought to, I don't know, I would like to sort of half believe that there's a market for these, and we're going to explore that a bit. It may never happen, but if we could move a few sets of these, it'd be really nice. Just with a 10BA bolt in each corner and a brass plate to match that's tapped, so you can put basically a template and drill 4 holes, put it on the outside of the buffer beam, put the brass plate on the inside, or bolts in and do them up, and that'd be nice, solid, strong coupling that's pretty prototypical and is not going to come off, and it can be retrofitted without cutting the whole chassis a bit to, and it's a bit more fine scale than actually gluing them in place. So that's my thoughts with that. Don't know, we'll see how we go. But that's them. I don't think they look too bad at all. I'm trying to think what Russian tools I've got here. You'll all be very pleased to notice that I actually had a bit of a clean-up. I got too many nasty comments last week, so anyone who's watching this and left a comment, I've had a bit of a clean-up. This bench is, so there is spaces on it, so there's projects all over it too, but anyway, had a bit of a clean-up. I've got this, which I've never really used as much as I thought I might. Might be fun to have a play with at some point. But it's a nice Russian optical flat there. It's probably not too bad. It could probably do with a bit of a clean. But haven't messed with that much at all. Haven't got a lot of Ukrainian tools though. So Yeah, we all watch Aid's Workshop. It's a pretty good channel. But anyone who creates content is a pretty good channel and is worth a watch, I think. I'm trying to cut back a little bit on social media and spending time on my phone and on the computer. Try and get some of these projects done. There are things that need to be done, and this is one of them. Get this sorted and in a box and put away and everything working, and I'd be very, very happy to sort of move on to the next thing then. But that's the idea anyway. Hi, Mark. I bumped that. Sorry, guys. Missed your comment. All I got was group, I meant, Dan, so I don't know what that's about. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. It's been a productive-ish weekend, I guess. There's not much else to do, so we're here in the workshop. Try and get this finished up to the point that I can put it all back together anyway. And it's going to work. It'd be really nice. That's a priority at the moment. But whether I'm probably not going to use these, I'm probably going to get a couple of small ones. Guys in Australia that sell this sort of stuff are D&D Barry in Melbourne, I think, and Sydney. Not sure. They're pretty helpful actually. So I've got to get a lever for this from them, and a couple of these, and a couple of levers for my Jeremy Schmidt tool grinder build. So that'll be a shipment from them hopefully this week. We'll see how we go with that. Might be next week. Dan, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty stupid thing to do, to be honest. They aren't making any more of them, and they're unlikely to make any more of them. So it's a different time and a different, really, different political structure, different everything. Any progress on the milling machine? No, not as yet. We need some electricity. I gave it a bit of a clean up the other night and a run around with oil can because I'm a bit worried about the humid weather, but no real damage yet. Did the same with the lathe and the other mill, a few other tools. Anyone who wants to come and give us a hand is more than welcome, but right now there are other people that need it more than me. I'm just sort of dragging my feet until I'm finally on top of things like moving and trips to Tasmania and hiring rubbish skips and those sort of things, and moving and yeah, all that stuff that happened last year that kind of slowed me down a bit. But no, there's no 3-phase here. I'd have it plugged in. Absolutely. And what else I had to say or tell anyone? There were probably 1,000 things. Can't think of anything at the moment. So they were the sort of the things that I was doing. Is want to get this finished. It's quite a lot of bits to go in a box, so we have to make a box for it of some sort. I don't know what or how. You done is this guy's motorcycle registration number, in case anyone was done. It's a personalised plate, so that's why that's on there with the Harley badge. So they're coming up all right. There's one printing upstairs. We'll get a couple of prototypes done for him, and then we might talk about printing a few. But if he wants 50 or 60 of them, that sort of makes it worthwhile. What's anyone else doing besides that? Yeah, Kimber's laser rebuild's going to be nice too. That's going to be pretty cool. A bit jealous of all you guys with your bigger lathes. It'd be really nice. But don't know whether there's a bigger lathe in my future or not. The Launch at the moment is a pretty capable little machine. Need to buy some inserts, and I need to buy a bottle of oil and a few things like that at the moment. That's where we're kind of at with stuff for the workshop. Library upstairs still needs a bookcase. And still a bit of sorting out. We're getting on with that as well. Slowly. Yeah, poor old Stuart. I feel for you. But I hope there's someone there to look after you. Mart's building a motor for a 32 Ford. That sounds good. I guess that's a V8. I've been messing with this too, off and on. I haven't done a whole lot, to be honest. A few little jobs. Messed around with it for half a day or something. So this little loco's sort of coming along. About 4 months ago, something like that. Longer than that, probably. A mate in the UK had a little O-gauge live steamer for sale in about 3/4 finished sort of a state, and me thinking it was a good in another project and all that sort of stuff. I sent him some money. It's a few months ago, but anyway, he ended up with COVID and nothing sort of happened for a long time, and I wasn't particularly interested in it because, yeah, when it gets here it's cool, but sort of he's good for it and really doesn't need to be sitting here in a box on my bench with all the other projects. So it's a rainy day project. Maybe something will happen with it, maybe it won't. I don't think it needs a lot of work. It probably could do with a little bit of boiler repair, and it could do with some plate work, and it needs putting all together. The engine looks pretty tidy. It's LBSC Molly in 3.5 inch, in O gauge, which is 32mm, 1.25 gauge. And it's basically 7mm scale live steamer tank engine. Anyway, he's posted it, and I got a notification on my post app today that it's in Queensland anyway. So another week, another fortnight, something like that. It might be, might not be next week for live stream, but it might be the one after. Trip from here to Brisbane is going to take longer than the trip from the Scottish border through to Brisbane, really. Yeah, good luck with the mantle clock. You can have that. And live very comfortably without too many mantle clocks in my life. I've got a really nice clock here. I probably showed it on live stream. There's a fairly nice sort of early to mid, sort of 1830s is sort of mid 19th century clock here. A 30-hour long case. It's here in a box. So I might at some point pull that down and clean it up and fix it. Needs a couple of bushes and needs a pendulum. Needs a new pendulum crutch. Could do with some hold down bolts. The strike train could do with a few modifications. And the calendar work's missing. And the dial's a mess. That's where we're at. The dial's a mess. But it'd probably tidy up all right. And got the mechanism going, of course, so I'd have to build a case, and I'm not 100% down with that. And the trouble is with a 30-hour long case, of course, is that usually they've only got one train. So if it goes, it strikes, and that'll keep everyone awake for hours. So I'm not watching that comment about dishwashers. I didn't see that. So there's a clock rebuild. There's 2 or 3 clock rebuild projects here. There's a really awesome, it looks like turtle or alligator skin or something like that, a crocodile skin. It might be alligator. It could be snake skin. Veneered German upright mantle clock that looks like something out of an animated Disney sketch, you know. Looks like if you sort of watched it for a minute and then turned your back and then looked back and it had moved. It's a pretty awesome clock. Someone's really put some effort into the case, and I think without too much more effort, you could bring it to the next level. But it's got a decent German mechanism in it. I think it's a Keinzel, something like that. Strike train mechanism, the strike's missing and it needs a little bit of work. So It's not too bad. I think I wound it up and it runs, but it could do with a little bit of work and probably some customization to bring it right to that animated Disney, like, Munster style thing. So whether I'm going to do that, I don't know. But that's another clock repair project that's here. Don't know what else is here as far as clocks. There's a few clocks in boxes. Anyway. There's no end of projects before I even thinking about others. So I just need to knuckle down like everyone else and just do things. And at the moment, I've not really been in the mood for that in the last 6 months. Need to get out of that and actually get some jobs done. And this is the first one. We'll get some progress made on this. And then we might start thinking about doing some others. I'm guessing there are other people in the same sort of bind that sort of, hardly call it depression, but it's sort of procrastinating things until things get finished. And the reason I've been procrastinating is because I have an issue. Problem of mine is that I don't like actually starting something else until I've got a project finished. And this Stuart 400's held me up. It sort of put me right back because it's not finished and I can't say, hey, look, that's done. Let's move on to something else. So I've been reluctant to spend too much time on other things until it is done, and it's at a standstill because of issues with it. So I sort of feel like I probably should just turf it and have a bit of a ceremony and burning ceremony or melting down ceremony or something and move on to something else, or I should actually get in and finish it. And I feel like it's a bit jinxed, to be honest. Anyway. Hey Anthony, saw your email. Probably not my thing, but thanks for the dropping the email in. The mood will come back. You just got to go for it. Rustnox is exactly right. Just go for it. He's got it. That pretty much nails it. You just got to get in and make things. So I've got to actually get down here in the workshop and make stuff. But a little bit of disposable income's nice too when it comes to workshops. And we've got everything here, but I need a tin of oil. I could do with a box of inserts. I could do with there's a few little things I could do with some materials. And they're all just I could do with a bottle of gas. They're all things that take time and money, and you've got to organise. So eventually it'll all come together. You just got to be patient. Tidying up helps. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm in denial about that, but maybe it does. And my bench is way cleaner than it was last week, and the floor's way cleaner than it was last week. We've certainly made a bit of progress. I put a lot of stuff away. I cleaned this bench off. Yeah. And I pulled this apart, which probably wasn't counterproductive, but we'll get it all back together soon. I had all these visions of actually having a new sticker to add to the set of project stickers for the channel when I finish the 400. this point that hasn't happened because I haven't actually finished the 400, but we'll see how we go with that. So anyway, I think everyone runs into that problem. You just got to sit down and actually do it. And buckle down and actually make some progress. Anyway, that's where we're at. I'd very much like some sign painting work, but that's a difficult thing to find, and it's a difficult thing to get anyone who's looking for advertising or old-fashioned sign painting, and do some nice work, but you've got to be in the mood and you've got to have your hand in and a bit of practice. So I might do a couple of rough little signs here and auction them off. Might do that in the next little while. Take care, Matt. Hope you don't get as much rain as we do. Nice day for walking the dog, but you'll be right. I've got a stack of absolute stack of composite board there. I might have to get the power saw out and cut some of it up and start seriously thinking about running some paint on it and making a couple of signs, his and her toilet signs and safety posters, things like that. Auction them to the highest bidder. Don't know. Almost spare time. Kevin, yeah, poor old Cliff, who's out of a shed fire. That's a bit rough. Hopefully he can get sort of a bit of a start at it again. Yeah, I'm not really down. I had a pretty crappy day, Anthony. I had customers today that were a pain in the... Lady come in at 4:45 and wanted Velcro sand on her old sandals, right? She's only got one pair of shoes that'll fit, which is fair enough. But instead of sending someone in with them when she's not wearing them, or leaving them with us overnight and coming back from tomorrow, or bringing another pair of shoes, or wearing a pair of thongs or Birkenstocks or something for the day while she gets the Velcro done, she decides she's going to go and get her hair done, and I can do it while she waits. So I did that and did a nice job of them, actually. This is 4:45, and by about a half hour to do them, and it wasn't a bad job. I did a really nice job of them. However, instead of having brown stitching, I used white stitching because that was what was in the machine. I didn't really even think about it. And I couldn't be bothered adjusting all the tension and stuff if I changed the thread. So it just wouldn't have happened. So when she come back, it's, I don't really like the white stitching. And I'm like, well, seriously. The rest of them were more or less white, but they were a bit dirty. So anyway, I sort of lost it with her. So probably it's time for a holiday or something. Time for a new project. And losing it with people is not something I usually do. Usually I'm pretty good with that, so I have to fess up about that in the morning in case she comes back and someone else can do it properly. But it's not really, it's above my pay grade, that sort of work. I don't do a lot of it, but we have a shop that caters for that sort of stuff. We've got a qualified Italian trained bootmaker who does that sort of work and does it pretty quick. But I'm terrible slow with that. Dan says number 2, Philip said. That's what she needed between the eyes, but she needed a good slap, I think, is about where she is, because she went to hairdressers and I took her shoes in there because I haven't got a pair of shoes and I can't walk around and all this sort of stuff. So when I cashed up tonight, I took them into her and she was berating the hairdresser for not quite getting the hair how she wanted it. Whether she actually described how she wanted it before she started, I don't know. But sort of in the word of the great Guido Hat says, she probably a swift kick is about what she wanted. But anyway, if you're not Australian and you're not familiar with the library of work, of audio work that is Guido Hatzis, Hatzis, it's probably something worth looking up. I'm not going to eradicate, or I'm not going to sort of air any of it on my channel because it's not really my thing, but some of you may appreciate the humour. Anyway, Russ Knox, Mature Patriot, how's he going? I hadn't seen an update, but maybe you could, some more info. He's a great guy. He's always very, very helpful. He's done a lot. I guess he's done a lot for me over the years. I'd like to give something back. What can we do? Certainly I'll be going and chasing that up. What's the difference between a rotary table and a dividing hand? Let's have a look. This is my little rotary table, right? And it's a bit dirty. Could do with a clean. It's probably going to get one at some point. This has got a worm drive in it. And I set it somewhere near. But its primary purpose is for doing radius cuts, right? On a circumference. So yes, you could probably set it up and you could drill PCD with it reasonably accurately. And probably you could sort of make gears with it with a dividing plate on it. But it's not a particularly practical thing, because even if you set it up this way, usually this knob here is sort of in the way. So most of the work for this, you put a vise on it or a chuck on it, and if you wanted to put like a round end on something or that sort of thing, that's what you would use a rotary table for. Russ Knox, thanks for letting us know about that. Look at this. I can just move stuff out of the way here and I have actual, like, clear space. Well, this is in a shelf, and you wouldn't think it'd get very dirty in there, but it looks like it has. That's a bit of a shock. Really wasn't expecting that. This is my dividing head. Right, which has a gear ratio as well, but it has a series of plates, so you've got accurate indexing. So if you want to cut a gear, you can set this up and work out a ratio so that you can cut whatever teeth. So this is my little dividing head. It's got some issues still and things that I'd like to fix. One is this detent I really don't like. Take care, Kevin. It's getting a bit late over there. Good to see you. I do have, and that's another job that needs to be done. And I found it the other day, like this week, when I was looking around. I do have another plastic detent, which I don't think is ideal. We're going to have a look for a better one than this. Our intentions are using this to locate in here, but I don't think it's really ideal. Screw it in there. Probably that screws straight in. But there's a few reasons why it won't work. I think I got the right thread. I probably didn't. Don't know. Anyway, this needs a new detent on there. This is less than ideal at the moment. They're all right. Absolutely, they're all right, and you can do good work with them. Getting stuff set up to do gear cutting is a bit more difficult with a rotary table than with a dividing head. Mostly because it's difficult to set up stuff between centres. And you've got this big mass here on a rotary table. So if you put a chuck on here or whatever, this is a bit dismal, needs an oil, then trying to cut a gear up against here that's a smaller diameter than the rotary table is a problem because your cutter comes up against the chuck. So you've got to stick it quite far out. So you're going to have to put a tailstock or something on it anyway. And that's a bit of an issue. If you wanted to cut something that's bigger than the diameter of the table, that's great. But then you've got to raise the table up big enough to fit it on the thing. So for gear cutting and that sort of thing, this really isn't the answer. Having said that, a little rotary table like this is not crazy expensive. A little dividing head for a decent machine is a bit more elusive, a bit harder to find, which is why I made this one with help from some friends. John Creasy gave me a hand with this and a few other people. JB from Oz cut the plates. It's got a worm gear here, and it's 40-1. And you can set this up with quadrant so that you actually get the right number of this is actually missing the spring off that. Wonder where that is. In the box here somewhere. But so like a flat spring that goes in there is the bit you cut your finger on, as Stefan calls it. And that holds that tight against the back of the machine there and gives it a bit of friction. I've set this up so that it takes the Lorch collets. If you want to run a 4-jaw chuck, you can use these that are set up for my Lorch lathe, which is really quite nice. There's a 3-jaw the same. This has got a back plate in. This has got a drawbar in here to pull that in nice and tight. That's a pretty good system. All the launch collets also fit this. And it's the same thread as my lathe, so just put a thread because they're back on it, but any of the attachments for the lathe will fit on this as well. So you can use a collet and you can get a fairly small diameter shaft and gear without running the cutter into anything. It's got a lock there, a spindle lock. And to some extent it's adjustable this way and this way, but I haven't used that a whole lot. I'd very much like to have this so that you can take this off. This has actually got a pin in here and a collar, like a key, I guess, on this bolt, so that you only need one spanner to take this off and move this out of the way. And I'd like to put another piece on here with like a direct index onto a gear. So you could do 60 or put a 60-tooth gear on here and do like even a 63 or something like that. If you wanted to do an odd number, you could 3D print a gear or make a gear hob with 3Ds printed outside to go on it with 4 screws, something like that. So you've got direct indexing. That's my thoughts. But that's a pretty nice little thing for cutting gears and that sort of thing. The thing is, on smaller machines, that a small dividing head like this is almost impossible to get unless you make one. I've got one for the big mill, but it's nearly as big as the little mill. That's the problem. That's the issue with these and most dividing heads you can buy, is that you can't move it. Dad had one. Hey, Paul, can't wait to see more of the clock. I'm going to say that. It's going to be a really cool build. Go and check out Paul's clock build. Encourage him, because he's going to need it before he's finished. So Dad's mill, he built a shelf on the side here. Shelf on the side of the mill, so that we can move this over and we can just skid this over onto here and skid it back. This is probably one of the best things he ever made, because he was disabled and there's absolutely no way he would have been able to lift this up onto the table, and there's absolutely no way I can lift it up onto the table. This is a BS1, I think. BS2, BS1 Vertex riding head. It's a proper Vertex, it's not a Chinese one. And it's got a centre tailstock there. But having said that, this is still too big for this machine even. A smaller one would have been a better deal. So Dad's got an actual extension to go on this bed, which kicks out each end and gives you another 8 inches or something on each end, which is made for doing between centres work on longer shafts, because this table's just not long enough. So, but we can crank this table up and move it in, and it's level with here, and this just slides across. Job's done. So I think that's an awesome way to deal with that. But this dividing head is much too big for this machine even, let alone most hobby machines. It's just gigantic. So while it's a very capable dividing head and capable of doing some pretty good heavy work, the little fella is probably just as capable of doing the sort of work that I do at this point. So I'm glad I built that. This is about 5-inch centre height here, so it'll swing 10 inches, something like that. I guess if we're making sprockets for Sentinel steam wagons or something, things like that, it might be a really useful thing to have. But up until that point, the little fella's probably a much better thing. So it's a decision you've got to make. To be honest, I would probably, for a lot of work, you'd buy a rotary table. But if you're thinking of cutting a lot of gears, which I imagine is in your future, I'd be sort of thinking I'd be looking out for a little a decent little dividing head. They're few and far between, to be honest. There really isn't very many of them. Anyway, that's my take on dividing heads. They're heavy, great mongrel things. The other thing that you've got to be careful of, and this is, I think everyone has been down this track. This dividing heads being too big thing doesn't always limit itself to dividing heads, because 9 times out of 10, rotary tables are too big for most things as well. A 6-inch rotary table on this mill will probably be really nice. An 8-inch one's a great, awful, big mongrel thing, and you can't move it, and it limits you too much, and you can't get to the extremities of it on anything but a really big mill. So don't buy too big. This is a Sherline one. This is really nice gear. It does need some sort of bracket to set it up this way, and it's sort of, we're still thinking about that. But this is a nice little rotary table, and this will get a lot of use for a lot of things. Something between this and a 6-inch would be really nice, something about that diameter. But I don't think anyone I know makes them. John Creasy did buy an Indian one of these. I don't know how good that is. But don't think, yeah, I need an 8-inch rotary table and go and buy one and then get it home and discover that, holy crap, how am I going to put this on the mill and what am I going to do with it if I can? Because 9 times out of 10, the size of your milling machine sort of limits it. Your y-axis is sort of what determines how big you need it. So there we go. That's Emma on rotary tables and dividing heads. But this is a project that's worth its weight in gold. This is a pretty awesome thing that we ended up making. It's got this is the tailstock which I made because I wanted to maximise. It's the same problem with this mill here. You've never got enough table length. So this has got a really short footprint, like the centre's back behind the hold down bolts really, here and here. And it's got a knob on here. John Creasy actually made this, which is very awesome of him. Did a really nice job of this. I wasn't expecting that at all. It was my design. And I sent this little V-block down to him to get cleaned up because he's got a grinder. Tom Lipton gave me this in California at one point. And he sent this back as a complete unit, which is really nice. So big thanks to John. But that's the tailstock for it. Anyway. Any other questions I can answer? Okay, where do you get the worm and wheel? We're good with, like I say at work, we're good with questions, answers not so much, but we are good with questions. Really, questions are my specialty. Where do you get the worm and wheel? Place in Melbourne. They're Japanese stock gears. I picked them up. They weren't crazy expensive. It's a ground worm. I will send you an email about that. Sorry guys, my phone, which is acting as my modem at the moment, went flat. I think we're here. Anyway, this is a stock bronze worm, 40-tooth stock wheel from KR or JK or something gears anyway. And this is a ground worm to match. Now, these weren't crazy expensive. The two of them were like, they were probably a couple of $100, right? So you wouldn't make them for that. And they are really nice. And it sort of makes that project. That was the expensive part of this. This base was an old grinder centre. I made the spindle, and John Creasy again put this thread on the end and this thread on the end. This is before I had thread cutting capabilities. And I bored it all the way through, 12.5 mil, and put the end in it. So the collets all run pretty true. This is just basically cut out of a piece of aluminium, and this block here was machined up, and the centerpieces and all those bits. If I was doing it again, I might do it a little bit differently to that, but it all's just how it worked. Tool making comp. Next question. There should be a competition, but it's not going to happen at any time soon. It'll probably be a bit early this year because no one's going travelling or anything. I need to get my mojo back so that I'm actually making bits. And it's not that long since we had the last thing. 1,000 tool projects. I haven't made projects from last time's competition. And I've got them sitting here ready to do. So there's 2 or 3 things that I'd like to make out of that before we can move on to the next one. Anyway, we're well over an hour, so we might say good night. Everyone's sort of kicking back out. Good to catch up with you all. I'm glad everyone's sort of safe. It's a bit scary that we're seeing fire and flood and all that sort of stuff and war. But hopefully this year is not going to be as bad as last year. Maybe it's just a kick, sort of a kick-on reaction from the craziness that's it's been 2 years of COVID. So anyway, we can hope for that. Take care. Email me with questions. And it's a mad world, like Peter says. I'm going to be out now, and really awesome to catch up with you all. Thanks, guys. And don't forget to go and subscribe to Tea and Biscuits. It's going to be a good channel. See ya.